Okay, can we start now? Oh, good. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annie. I'm here today with Christine, and we would like to welcome and thank you for gathering here today to kick off our organized campaign to advance the rights and welfare of international students. Just a few house rules before we start. Please do turn on your video when speaking, and when not speaking, please mute your microphones at all times to avoid any background noises or feedbacks. For our speakers, please keep your statements within 1 minute, and we will try and prompt you if needed. And we're also requesting for everyone to stay until the end of the program. Just a quick note, there have been a few slight changes on the original program we initially sent out to the group, just to let everyone know about that.
Thank you, Annie. Now, before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of our land. I'm going to do the acknowledgement of the country. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of this land on which this event is taking place. We would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and their ongoing connection to the land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to the elders, past, present, and emerging. We also extend the respect to all other people present.
Yep. Okay, to start off, we would like to call on Yvette Segundo of Support Network for International Students, or SNIS, and Migrante Melbourne for the opening remarks.
Thank you, Annie and Christine, for the inspiring introduction. I will still begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people, on which we are today. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. So, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a remarkable day to celebrate the first anniversary of SNIS, the Support Network for International Students. So how time flies. It has been a year since its launching, a year of unity in advancing the rights and welfare of the students, particularly the international students, whom we have seen as one of the most vulnerable sectors of the society during the start of lockdown. The formation of SNIS was brought by the spirit of the community and concerned organizations who saw the reality that unfolded by the unprecedented event of the COVID-19 pandemic. I would say things got worse when our Prime Minister Scott Morrison declared that those international students needs to go home, to go to their respective countries. This pronouncement by the Prime Minister was the culmination that we got united. And through the good hearts of SNIS members, we were able to assist and speak out for the students in many ways, in our own humble ways. To all our wonderful guests, to all our speakers and our listeners, let's celebrate our SNIS. May our actions of alleviating the conditions of the most vulnerable sectors continue. There were struggles at the start and challenges that we faced, but we persevered and succeeded. This is our basic unity why we are here now, to continue the movement for a just and humane society in which we live. This is the reason why we celebrate. We celebrate our unity, and congratulations to the support network. Well done to its members and supporters. Secondly, we are marking this day to launch an important campaign of the support network, the anti-educational trafficking. This will be explained by Ness and Carol later in the program. With this campaign, we are calling for your support and unity. As we dare to speak out against big issues that we are facing, I would like to challenge each and every one of us today by sharing a quote from Abraham Sarmiento. He was an editor of the Philippine Collegian during the mid-1970s, in one of the toughest and most dangerous times for journalism during martial law in the Philippines. I quote in Filipino, "Kung hindi ngayon, kailan pa? Kung hindi tayo kikibo, sinong kikibo? Kung di tayo kikilos, sinong kikilos?" In English, if not now, when? Who will speak up if we do not speak up? Who will act if we do not act? So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Let's open this program with our strong fist up in the air. Can we all raise our fisted hands, please? Mabuhay ang SNIS, mabuhay ang pagkakaisa ng nakikibakang mamamayan. Long live the unity and militant spirit of the people. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Yvette, for an energetic opening remarks. Now, to kickstart the program, we will be serenaded by ALPA, so Advanced League of People Artist. Let's welcome JD Rimitar.
Sisirin mo sa dagat, hukayin mo sa lupa, baka naroon ang kalayaan. Tayo ba'y mga tau-tauhan sa isang dulang pang kalawakan, mga anino ng nakaraan, alipin ng kinabukasan. Libarin mo sa ulap, sisirin mo sa dagat, hukayin mo sa lupa, baka naroon ang kalayaan. Saranggola na nilalaro sa himpapawid, makakawala ba sa pagkakatali kapag pinutol mo ang pisit? Libarin mo sa ulap, sisirin mo sa dagat, hukayin mo sa lupa, baka naroon ang kalayaan. Tayo ba'y mga sunod-sunuran sa takda ng ating kapalaran? Kaya ba nating paglabanan mga sumpa ng kasaysayan? Libarin mo sa ulap, sisirin mo sa dagat, hukayin mo sa lupa, baka naroon ang kalayaan. Libarin mo sa ulap, sisirin mo sa dagat, hukayin mo sa lupa, baka naroon.
Okay, thank you, JD of ALPA, for that wonderful performance. It is also important to note that JD is also an international student. Now, can I please call on Carol and Ness to give a short report about SNIS and to give us further information about this campaign against education trafficking?
Hi, everyone. I'm Carol. I'm part of the support network for international students with Ness. I'm also part of Anti-Colonial Asian Alliance. I also want to pay my respects to traditional owners of Wurundjeri and Bunurong lands of the Kulin Nations. So A fundamental organizing principle for the support network, which I'll be referring to short form as SNIS, is to not only locate our work on Indigenous lands, but also be in solidarity and struggle with Indigenous communities on this continent. SNIS believes that migrant self-determination, justice, and dignity is linked to the broader anti-capitalist, anti-colonial, and anti-imperial movement for social, economic, environmental justice, all of which is tied to the struggle for Indigenous sovereignty and land back. So SNIS is a coalition of organizations and individuals, including current international students and allies, who work collectively to advance the rights and welfare of all international students through various methods and initiatives. SNIS was conceived as part of Damaya Migrante program, supporting Filipino international students and migrant workers since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. With the statewide lockdown and closure of international borders, international students have faced systemic discrimination, threats to their safety, abuse, and neglect. They continue to be socially excluded from the government's crisis response and locked out from public resources, with many unable to afford food and experiencing homelessness. This network was established in September 2020 last year to expand capacity and broaden support for international students of all backgrounds. The primary aim is to advance international student voices, rights, welfare, and well-being. This includes advocating for policy reforms at a structural systemic level and calling for accountability mechanisms for education providers and the government. In particular, all institutions engaged in abusive practice, wage theft, education trafficking, and other violations of international students' rights. In a 2016 Stop Education Trafficking campaign by Migrante Aotearoa, New Zealand, education trafficking was coined by Filipino organizers as the exploitation of international tertiary students for the profit of immigration agents, private education providers, and employers through three main elements. First, the deception of students in their home countries. Second, debt bondage. And third, workplace exploitation. Unsurprisingly, this has also been happening here in Australia. Education trafficking descends from unfree labor practices of colonial slavery and indentureship in both the settler colony and the source countries. It is one part of the violent process that produces hyper-exploitable, deportable, or disposable classes of new migrants. We will have an article unpacking the concept of education trafficking further coming out soon in Overland Online magazine, so please keep an eye out for it. As a network committed to advocacy and political education on this issue, SNIS insists on the necessity to organize to prevent international student exploitation as part of international working class struggle. Also tapping shared experiences between multiracial communities to build intra-communal strength and solidarity. We encourage more voices from international students, migrant communities, educators, unions, and other organizations to join us in building a movement to abolish education trafficking, as it must be cut from its imperialist roots. I'll now pass it on to Ness.
I'm Ness. I'm the interim coordinator of the network of SNIS. And I want to start again before adding to what has Carol shared, to acknowledge the Aboriginal people of this land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. And to note that the land has never been ceded, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And I want to also extend that acknowledgement and respect to all the women and children who have been impacted by family and domestic violence. Sadly, in the last few weeks, we have been getting calls via Gabriela, Australia, from our international students themselves who have been victim survivors of domestic abuse. Okay, so as an addition to what Carol has already shared, we know that SNIS started in September last year, but before September, Migrante and all its sister organization via the Demand Migrante program has been doing a lot of work already among the international students. So we continued with that. And one of the major work of the network was to help students who have been abused by their education providers to lodge their complaints to relevant agencies such as ASQA, the Ombudsman, and the Consumer Affairs. So there was really a big need to address their situation because the mental health toll was taking really a big impact on their lives, especially last year. So we were able to lodge more than 50 individual complaints through those 3 agencies. And we also lodged a group complaint where there was the backing of the network. And I'm pleased to announce to you all that we have a success in this area, because prior to the lodgements, ASQA is the agency that is tasked to investigate allegations of in terms of the quality of education that the students are receiving from their providers. They did say to us that they would only accommodate individual complaints, but because I think of the voice and the noise that we are making as a network, they eventually contacted us and said that they will be investigating also the group complaint that we have put in. So that's really a good outcome. And of course, as part of the work of the network, the deliveries of the emergency food packages has been continuous, and cooked meals that at the moment we have been able to deliver thousands of these emergency food packages. And alongside with these 2 big activities happening, there is also a very critical component, which is the mental health support. And I would like really to thank all of us here in the network, our volunteers. But in terms of the mental health support, we have also Cristina Borromeo, he's a counselor, who have been giving free counseling session to our international students. So we have been putting referrals to Cristina also. I myself is a therapeutic worker. And also, another important component is the visa support. And I really wanted to acknowledge our volunteers here in the network being spearheaded by the wonderful Sanmati, who is an immigration lawyer, and also will share later on about the plight of the students. And there is also Sam from the migration agency, who is a migration agent. We have sent him a lot of referrals. So, and he was able to help some students who are on the verge of losing their visas. And also Annie, one of our MC, she also works in the migration service sector. So she was part of that team who was helping at the providing visa support to the international students. So yeah, thank you very much for that. We know that visa is something that it's almost the same as a safety issue it is a safety issue among international students. So we cannot downgrade the importance of students having that issue around their visas. And then throughout the year, we also have a lot of collaboration happening. So we know that capitalism always tends to teach us about being, going forward as individuals. But we know for a fact that the collective action, the collective work is the much better pathway. And through this network, throughout the whole year, we have a lot of work going on in terms of collaboration. So in terms of, say, rental issues, we have part of the network is the Renters and Housing Union. Shout out to Rahu. We have been able to refer a lot of cases to them. And also we were able to conduct a forum about rental rights. And yeah, so a lot of this work, a lot of this collaborative work have been happening. It's sprouted in a lot of areas in our advocacy amidst all the lockdowns that we have experienced. We know that we launched the network last year also in a lockdown. So we had it via Zoom also, but it didn't deter us from going forward and helping the international students. And one very component of the network is the formation of the organization of international students themselves. So that's why even today, what you will be seeing, all the cultural performances were of international students. And there will be also sharing. So in terms of the campaign going forward with the anti-education trafficking, we really wanted to expand and have everyone on board because we know that this is a very big problem. In the last 1 year that we have existed as a network, there were already several students who came to us with complaints, and it's not only that school that we have complained about. Remember, we have an ongoing petition against Lawson. There are other schools now that have been complained by other international students. So it's really proving that it is a trend, as what Carol is saying. It didn't only happen in New Zealand, it's happening in Australia, and it's happening in other parts of the world. So there is really a need that we all gather all our energies and support this advocacy of SNIS. And hopefully, going forward, we all meet in person and we could do more in this space. And I want to thank all of you for all the support that you have been providing. For those that it's your first time to hear us about the network, everyone is welcome to be part of the network. We meet regularly every month. It's always at the last week of every month. Yeah, so so there's a lot of work, and we're also going to form a research group so that we have all the data that we are collecting, and we will be the one to be publishing that together with the international students. I also would like to thank some people here that are members of the media who have been supportive of SNIS and have been putting articles about the network. And thank you to all of the international students that are here with us today. Thanks.
Thank you, Ness and Carol, for that speech about the SNIS and the launch, all about the launch campaign. Now, to give us a speech about the rights of international students and their visa issues, let's welcome our guest speaker today, Ms. Sanmati Verma. She's a senior lawyer from Clothier Anderson Immigration Lawyers.
Hello, everybody. My name's Sanmati. I'd like to acknowledge first that I'm speaking from unceded Bunurong country, and I'd like to pay my respects and show my solidarity for First Nations people and elders past, present and to come. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'd like to also say how much of an honour it is to be invited to be part of this struggle that you're all engaged in. It's a real privilege to be part of people's struggle in their own interests, and thank you so much for taking me along. So just give me 1 second, my Zoom is doing something funny. So look, I think what everyone has identified and what's really energising about this movement is that international education in Australia is trafficking on a broad scale. The industry is an industry predicated upon labour trafficking. Famously, when a couple of scholars were writing around 2009 about the international education industry, they made the observation that its miracle is not just to bring into Australia people who can work, but to bring into Australia people who can pay for that privilege. So it's not only about bringing in tractable workers, it's about bringing in people who will pay for the privilege of being permitted to work in exploitative circumstances. So it is a rort from top to bottom. I can see from the running sheet today that there's somebody who's going to speak about the history of international education in Australia. So I won't say a lot and bore you on that topic. But I will say for anyone who was here, who was unhappy enough to live during the Howard era in Australian politics, that it's important to remember that international education, the economy as we know it now, was instituted by John Howard, a man famously in love and obsessed with borders and the regulation of movement into Australia. And yet he was the one who made it possible for international students who had studied here to transition to permanent residency while they remained onshore. Was it because he wanted to facilitate movement for certain people? Or is it because the border operates in such a way, not just to stop entry, but to modulate people's entry, to tightly tie it to particular conditions, to make people renew their permit to stay in the country according to the state's rules each and every day and at every part of their lives. And so this is what Howard was interested in. His genius was to turn people into units of value that Australia could extract money from in an ongoing way across their tenure in the country. So I think you'll all be familiar with the famous statistic that I think up until last year, when COVID hit, international education was Australia's third largest export earner. So other than things that Australia digs out of the ground and exports, coal and iron ore, it was international education that was contributing the most to Australia's economy. I think it's fallen down to the fourth. That's still pretty big considering the effect that COVID has had on the economy. So as Carol and the other speakers have mentioned, there is something particularly galling when last year it was suggested that international students should simply remove themselves from the country as though they weren't the fourth largest source of income and as though they weren't owed something in return. So this movement couldn't come at a more opportune moment. So let me talk a little bit about international student visas, student visas and how they're structured, and give you a little bit of a kind of technocratic picture of the way that they look. It's not the most optimistic picture in the world, but hopefully it gives you an idea of why collective organising like this, not just around individual visas or individual conditions or individual breaches and things like that, but collectively around the conditions that people experience is so important. So student visas carry two crucial conditions that tie students simultaneously to their colleges or their education providers and to their employers in very, very specific ways that are unique to the visa subclass. There are two important conditions, condition 8202 and condition 8105. So these are the bane of every international student's life. And if we've got international students on the call, I'm sure you could say much more about this in much more interesting detail than I will. So condition 8105 is the very famous condition that limits students to working 40 hours per fortnight while their course is in session. And if they work in breach of those conditions, then of course their visas will be available for cancellation by the Department of Immigration. And it is almost irrelevant in that process whether or not they are forced by their employer, as often happens, to work in excess of those 40 hours, whether they are forced to work in excess of those 40 hours because they're getting paid half of what the average rate is, meaning that they have to work 80 hours to earn what another person would earn in 40 hours. So this is that condition. So when that condition was designed, it used to be 20 hours per week. It was strictly applied, and breach resulted in mandatory cancellation. So because of campaigning over a decade, around 5 to 10 years ago, actually it's 10 now, it was modified. So the government gave international students a gift, removing mandatory cancellation for breach of that condition, and also extending it to 40 hours per fortnight so that you could work more hours one week and then try and balance it out by working less the second week. But as we can all see, this is not much of a gift to anybody. The rationale for having that condition there on your visa in the first place when student visas were first designed is to ensure international students focused on their study. That's an extremely paternalistic, I mean, you can't see that even international or even students who attend university are forced to even attend particular hours. I mean, everyone's an adult, that's left in people's own hands. It's particularly galling when there is a completely second condition specifically devoted to students maintaining their enrolment, which is condition 8202. So this condition has three parts. There's a study-related condition. The first part of it is that a student has to maintain their enrolment in a course at the same level as when they first applied for the visa. So you have to maintain full-time enrollment in a course. And then the second component is you have to maintain satisfactory progress in that course. And you have to maintain satisfactory attendance in that course as well. So there are three parts of that, all of which are sort of left in the hands of a student's education provider, their college or their university. So you can see how students are sort of double policed. They're policed by their college, they're policed by their employers, and the body enforcing all of this is the Department of Immigration, who holds the ultimate power to cancel a student's visa in the case of a breach of either of these conditions. So stuck between these two rocks, what can students do? The picture is sort of dire, but it's not as though there are no rights whatsoever that are realisable. And as Ness has told us, they are best realisable when students act collectively to enforce them. So when it comes to condition 8105, there is a growing call by international students, and of course the 40-hour work limitation. This is how we can tell the reliance that the government, despite its exhortations to students to go home, the reliance that it places on international students' work and labour in the running of the economy. The 40-hour work limitation has been lifted in relation to students who work in certain critical sectors. So last year it was first raised specifically in relation to students who are working in supermarkets and packing shelves, of course, an acknowledgement that students are keeping the service economy ticking over. And now it's been lifted in relation to other critical sectors as well. But even for students who work outside of those sectors, there's a growing campaign that sort of says there is increasing evidence that employers use the threat of cancellation to provoke students to accepting in excess of what they know to be students' work conditions. And so where there is evidence that an employer has forced a student or compelled a student into breach, that should be a factor that the Department of Immigration takes into account before cancelling their visa. So students who are stuck working for a diabolical employer who is issuing these type of threats to them should keep a record of those threats, because they're most likely to be relevant when immigration cancels, or if immigration moves to cancel their visa. So keeping a record of hours, keeping a record of correspondence, trying to get your employer to engage in written texts with you or written emails, if you can lure them into that type of thing, that will be helpful to you down the track if things come to the pointy end of cancellation. And what about the way that colleges control student conditions? So enrolment, attendance, and progress. Colleges will tell, as a certain college that Nessa was talking about, colleges are very keen to tell students that they have to pay particular amounts of money at particular intervals in order to maintain their enrolment, or they will cancel their enrolment automatically, or they will fudge their attendance records. Or so colleges are not above, of course, giving these types of threats. In fact, neither are universities. But colleges are not free to interfere with students' cancellation or attendance records. That is governed by a particular act that colleges and universities don't make students aware of, the Education Services for Overseas Students Act, or the ESOS Act. There are particular processes that have to be gone through that include in themselves a right of appeal and a right to appeal to the Ombudsman before any action is taken against a student in respect of their enrolment or in respect of their attendance or progress records, before that information is communicated to the Department of Immigration. So if you are in a position with your college or your university where they're threatening you about interfering or reporting you to the Department of Immigration or any of this stuff, you need to ask them, well, what is your process under the ESOS Act? How have you notified me that I'm at risk of being reported? What are my options? What are my avenues? Things aren't as automatic as either your college or your employer would have you believe. So what other opportunities are available? So Ness has talked to you about a few. Where you are attending, as the students of Lawson College found out in a terrible way, where you are attending a college or a university, I suppose more commonly a college, but plenty of universities fall below the mark. If as an international student you find yourself attending a college or a university where the services are just well below what was marketed to you, you have access to the Australian Skills and Qualification Authority, ASQA. ASQA is a bit of a big stick for colleges or universities because ASQA holds the key to their ongoing registration and ability to milk money from people by offering a course to international students. That's one. There is the Commonwealth Ombudsman, that is another. There is Consumer Affairs, that is another. If the college falls over altogether, as a condition of their registration, they have to have paid money into something called the Tuition Assurance Scheme. So even then, you're not supposed to be left high and dry. You're supposed to be able to at least withdraw the fees that you've paid into that college. Otherwise, the Commonwealth Ombudsman should be able to help you extract that if a college collapses, which we've all seen happening during COVID, right? The colleges are simply collapsing and leaving people high and dry. This is not the most optimistic picture. As I've said, international student visas are designed in a way to put people in some of the most difficult positions. I would say even more difficult than being on an employer-sponsored visa, because you are answerable to two masters, both your college or your education provider and also your employer, and then ultimately the Department of Immigration. But strength comes in organising collectively, as Ness has said, to point out the ways that this system is systematically failing people and systematically leaving students open to exploitation. It's a big victory to have claims collectively addressed. These bodies that I'm talking about, the Ombudsman, ASQA, have been absolutely resistant to receiving collective complaints. They believe that each individual student has individual tiny little circumstances that can't be connected together, despite their circumstances being absolutely unified economically. So these are big wins. And movements like this that continue to claim space collectively for students and remind the government and remind the state and remind the Department of Immigration that they're not disposable, that they're owed something in return for the huge way that they contribute to the economy and that they contribute to the society around them. So it's my great privilege to be here, and thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Sanmati, for that very informative speech, as it is very important for our international students to be aware, to know and understand their rights, especially surrounding any issues on their visas, specifically their visa conditions, and of course, the importance of collective action amongst international students. Next is another cultural performance from Myra, an international student and a member of Samahang Tatak Pinoy, Migrante Northeast Chapter.
When you're down and troubled and you need some love and care, and nothing is going right, close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got a friend. If the sky above you grows dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind begins to blow, keep your heads together and call my name out loud. Soon you'll hear me knocking at your door. winter, spring, summer, or fall. All you have to do is call, and I'll be there. Yes, I will. Now, ain't it good to know that you've got a friend when people can be so cold? They'll hurt you, yes, and desert you, and take your soul if you let them. Oh, but don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, running, yeah, yeah, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there. Yes, I will. You've got a friend. You've got a friend. You've got a friend.
Thank you for that lovely performance from Samahang Tatak Pinoy, Myra and Eugene. It is indeed very important to have friends nowadays, especially during lockdown. So yeah, it was a very lovely song. Now, Miss Candice is here to give us a history of international education in Australia.
Thank you, Tin. I think I'll just quickly share my screen. So give me one moment. Share. Hopefully you guys can see it now. Sorry, just quickly swap it, and I'm going to hide the presenter view. Okay, so hopefully you can see my my slide now. Hi all, my name is Candice, and I would like to acknowledge that I am attending this forum from the unceded lands of the Bunurong people. I am from the Philippine Studies Network in Australia, and I'm a member of SNIS. And I've been active in supporting students in submitting complaints to authorities such as ASQA and the Ombudsman, which Sanmati's mentioned before. And while I'm going through email trails of grievances with the international students, some questions just popped in my mind. You know, what brought us here? How did we get here? Why is international education in Australia is what it is? So this prompted me to just look at publicly available data and see what they say about international students. And here I'm only actually going to scratch the surface. I mean, it's nothing new, but amidst balancing the mainstream debate, it's important to understand the neoliberal framework that enables international education in Australia. And this is actually a complicated concoction of migration, labor shortages, shocks in the world economy, and the deregulation of the public and the private sectors. And the timeline of that is what I was hoping to share with you today. So just looking at the global context, according to the Project Atlas study or report in 2020, Australia hosts the largest share of international students in comparison to their higher education population. So meaning to say, 1 in 3 students in students in higher education in Australia is actually an international student, and the comparable proportion of that in the vet world is 1 in 10 of vet students is actually an international student. Now, looking at international students in the Australian context, I borrowed a couple of pictures from the Mitchell Institute, which they used to actually analyze the impact of the loss of international students due to coronavirus. So in general, there's about 3.4 of the Australian population is made up of international students. And when you have a look at the Sydney population here, they make up about 56%. And what this photo is showing here is that there is this big these bars that look like buildings is actually rental properties that are at risk of being vacated if international students leave. So 3.4, and this is the corresponding one in Melbourne. So 3.4 as a proportion of Australian population seems really small, but because of their concentration, right in the heart of the Sydney city and Melbourne city, it's fairly significant. So 56% of the Sydney city and inner south population is actually international students, while in Melbourne, 27% of inner Melbourne is actually made up of international students. So we can appreciate how, how much the impact of international students are in making in Australia. So now on to the timeline. International education in Australia really started in 1923 with the first international student coming from China to study teaching in Australia. And from the 1950s, this is where we get the surge of international students from the Asia Pacific region, as driven by the infamous Colombo Plan, which is an intergovernmental effort to strengthen economic and social development of member countries. Now, fast forward to 1998, the Howard government launched about 21 million marketing campaign through the Australian Education International to promote Australia's education in China, Europe, in North and South America. This is a very important era because this is when the Howard government really took advantage of significant economic benefit provided by international education sector and providing policy measures which provided pathway from being an international student to permanent residency. So I think this is where most of the story, the story of the modern neoliberal policies really started. Now the following year, the migration occupations in demand list was introduced, and this was designed to fill migration. This migration policy was designed to fill occupations that are in shortage in Australia. Now, from 2000, the growth in international students started to increase. So the government started to develop skilled migration and international students program in the context of international competition for skilled migrants and international students. So by 2003, the government relaxed many barriers, such as they lowered the student visa assessment levels, including English requirements and financial tests for students from certain countries and education sectors, which then makes it easier to be granted a student visa. Now, Now, in 2005, the government increased the number of trades occupations listed in the MODL, which included cooking and hospitality. So this main change is pivotal as it accelerated the growth of vet enrollment. And as you can see in the purple area, which is represented by vet enrollment, is increasing with time. Sorry, actually just one step back. I forgot to introduce to you what the actual bar graph meant. So this is a trend of enrollments of international students in the last 20 years. Now, the blue bit is the ELICOS students, who are they're the English language students. The orange bits are the higher education students, so university students. The green bits are the non-award or the exchange students, and the red ones are schools. The purple ones are the vet students. So going back, so from 2005, we can see this purple area growing and growing up to 2009, and that's from 2006 and to 2008 alone is actually 18 to 28% increase. So in 2006 and 2005, this is where studies revealed that skilled migrants weren't actually achieving high levels of employment. Former overseas students may not have been achieving employment outcomes that were the same with their skills and qualifications. And I think the evidence suggested as well that English language skills and relevant work experience were crucial to achieving a good employment outcome. So in addition to this, by 2008, the global financial crisis hit, and the economic downturn caused the Rudd government to reevaluate the skilled migration policy. So in 2009, the skilled stream of the migration program was further tightened for the first time after 10 years, along with the narrative of protecting local jobs. So this demand-driven model gave birth to the critical skills list, or the CSL, and where they prioritized employer-sponsored visa, or 457, within the IT, health, engineering, and they pretty much left out trade occupations that I mentioned earlier, like hospitality and cooking. Now, how they did that was they tightened the financial capacity requirement and increased the English language requirement. And under this new SOL, the IS, or the international students, were explicitly cautioned not to take courses in the hope of achieving their PR, because the SOL changes annually. Now, in the meantime, around this time, there was also violence against international students from India. And this caused a massive diplomatic damage control to save Australia's reputation. Now, in the late 2011, we have a massive implementation of reform that came out of the Knight Review. So the Knight Review is very famous within the international education in Australia. So this significantly improved visa processing and included new post-work study visas for bachelor, master, and PhD graduates, and they further relaxed the financial capacity requirement, as well as what we know now as the upfront statement of the genuine temporary entry statement to assess visa applications. So for those of you who help international students write up their complaints, the GTE is always what is thrown at the student by the private provider. So moving further on, in 2013, now going into Abbott government, they further simplified the assessment levels, and they introduced financial requirement to be reduced from 18 months to 12 months. So if I'm correct, I think at the moment it's only 12 months as well. So meaning the international student is only required to show sufficient funds or financial capacity up to 12 months. Now, that just kept on going, and we can see the bar chart shooting up, really increasing from the vet perspective, the purple area, and the higher education perspective. And now we hit 2020, and we've got coronavirus. Now, at the end of 2020, we have around about 880,000 international students enrolled in Australia. And the significant impact of coronavirus can be further seen if we compare the May 2020 data down to the May 2021 data. And we can see here that there is a massive decline of 100 20,000 enrollments, and that translates to 16%. So now I've only scratched the surface, and if we do not yet have a good understanding of the influences from the home countries. And I think it would be great to be able to interrogate the characteristics of the international students and what these push factors are from their home country. So SNIS in its future work aims to look at these characteristics in order to further inform the anti-education trafficking campaign. And as you can see from this graph, China, we mapped out the country of birth of the international students. And as you can see, China and India dominate the graph. But if we remove them, we can see this big increase in students from Nepal, students from Colombia, and students from the Philippines. So I guess I will stop there because I've only got 10 minutes. But the message is that looking at the trend we looked at earlier, we acknowledge that international students, as revealed by the pandemic, are recognized as being very vulnerable in the situation. And I feel that their aspirations and their motivations are somehow still not visible, as well as the loopholes within the ESOS Act that the providers exploit. And also the lag between the time when the international students need immediate help and the time that ASQA or the ombudsman have already processed the papers. Mind you, international students are often unsuccessful on an individual capacity when it comes to this. I think that where formations like SNIS, working from the grassroots level, is really critical in moving forward or advocating for the welfare of the international students. Yes, I think that's it from me. I think my time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ate Candice, for sharing. That presentation helped in providing a bigger picture of background history with relevant ongoing trends of international education and its significant impact here in Australia. Next, we have Ian to share about his own experience as an international student here in Australia.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Romar Ian Hugo. I'm currently studying here in Victoria, Australia. I have done my fair share of ups and downs of being an international student. I've experienced different challenges, failures, and obstacles that almost made me give up in my first 2 years here in Australia. The journey has not been easy. To name a few of the big challenges were finances, homesickness, and being a wrong education provider. I faced a lot of bad experiences and stress all throughout my first education provider. Following the global pandemic that greatly affected my finances, thankfully, I have my family here with me and my fellow kabayans who helped us. International students overcome difficulties and struggles, especially being with the wrong education provider. I want to thank the Migrante and the SNIS in supporting international students and helping us fight our fight and right against people who took advantages and threatened us that almost made us give up our dreams. On behalf of the international students, let us give our full support to the Migrante and SNIS, our big appreciation, and hope you continue to help our fellow kabayans where we in need. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ian, for that message. Now, for an icebreaker, we have a cultural performance performed by international students of Gabriela East. So Gabriela is women's organization that fight the rights of women and children. So they will be dancing Break the Chain. Yeah, let's welcome Gabriela East for their dance number.
I will walk
Okay, thank you, Gabriela East, for that amazing and uplifting performance of Break the Chain. Now we would like to proceed to our series of solidarity messages from different organizations and individuals. May we start with Anisha Senarati to provide her solidarity message.
Thank you so much, Annie. Hi, everyone. My name is Anisha. I'm calling in from Wurundjeri country today. I've spent the last 4 years working on racial justice campaigns and migrant rights campaigns, which is how I heard about the Support Network for International Students, and how I've sort of been really lucky enough to sit in on a few meetings over the past year. And I first want to say just like a huge congratulations to the SNIS team for a 1-year anniversary. It's a really big milestone. I remember when I first heard about the network through Migrante in Melbourne, I was just really excited at the idea of collectively bringing together people with different skills and experiences to work with and advocate with international students. Because I think from my experience, there is just such a low level of understanding and literacy amongst the broader Australian public around the barriers and the experience, barriers international students face and the experiences of international students, and really just like how deeply predatory and exploitative the international education system is, and how that's so tied in with our deeply discriminatory visa system as well. And I think that all was really exposed last year through COVID, when the government was so quick to abandon international students and temporary visa holders at this really horrific time of crisis. But I think what we also saw was just the incredible resilience and resourcefulness of international students, and the ability of international students to mobilize and organize to support each other to survive. And I think that is really the strength of the Support Network for International Students, is taking this network collective approach to advocating for justice and change. So I'm so excited. There's still so much energy and movement around the network, and I'm honestly just really can't wait to see what the next year is going to bring. And thank you so much for inviting me into this space. It's really great. Yeah, really great to see everything that you guys have achieved so far. And good luck for the next year.
Thank you so much, Anisha. Our next speaker is Wek Tai, the Deputy Chairperson of Victorian Multicultural Commission.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. It's my absolute pleasure to be here this afternoon. For those who don't know me, my name is Poike, and I'm the Deputy Chairperson at the Victorian Multicultural Commission. The VMC is an independent statutory body that advocates for and promotes cultural diversity in Victoria across all levels of government. I would also like to acknowledge and thank all our international students. As I have stated on numerous occasions, international students are fine young people who have come to our shows to gain education, but also often what we don't hear is that they contribute so much more than economy. They are a very critical part of our social fabric, and also in terms of the wonderful work that they do in supporting various organizations, charity, not-for-profit, through their volunteering work, and I want to thank them for that. Starting a new life in Australia is daunting, and as a migrant myself, who have come here very recently, I know firsthand how it feels, and I want to acknowledge the bravery that many of these young people have taken to coming to a new country, to seek knowledge, but also to expand their skills and their network, and leaving behind friends and families and your loved ones is not an easy task. And to explore a whole new platform with a lot of hopes in the bag is not an easy thing. And I want to commend your bravery, firstly. And as many international students, English is often their second language, or the third or the fourth. In my case, it's the fifth language, so it's not easy. So I'm very grateful that I'm given this opportunity to speak and reflect for our international students. Also, I just wanted to thank and congratulate the Student Network for International Students. for their first year anniversary. It is fantastic work that you have done in the last 12 months, and I wish you all the very best going forward as you continue to advocate to empower our international students. For our international students, I guess as you establish yourself, we've seen that there's so many challenges apart from your academic achievements that you try to do. Like any other society, there are always some very bad people that will try to take advantage of this. And that is why we need to work together and for the student network to continue advocating and building partnerships with other entities and organizations so that no one have to suffer in silence. It is only just that, you know, our international students are advocated for and treated with respect and with dignity. The other message that I have is that with all the speakers who have mentioned before me, there are many support services to our international students. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out and make sure that your voice is heard. It matters, and that's the way we're going to change things. So I wish you all the very best, and I hope that once things get back to a bit of normality, we will have an increase of international students coming back here, and that we'll look forward to welcoming you and celebrating the diversity that you bring to our society. With that note, I will end there. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you for that message, Mr. Buetai. Now we have Ms. Maria Hach, Acting Manager of Multicultural Center for Women's Health, who will share a video message with us.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria and I'm the Acting Research, Advocacy and Policy Manager at the Multicultural Centre for Women's Health. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm zooming in from the unceded lands of the Bunurong people, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge that as a migrant to this country, I continue to benefit from the ongoing colonisation of the land now called Australia. The Multicultural Centre for Women's Health is honoured to offer this message of solidarity to the Support Network for International Students. We congratulate you on your 1-year anniversary while also acknowledging that members and supporters have been fighting for the rights, welfare and well-being of international students long before the network was established. We believe in your work and will continue to support your efforts for transformative change. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you, Maria, from Multicultural Center of Women's Health. Next, we have Rakesh Prajapati from United Workers Union.
Annie, he just sent his apology. He's got also an emergency.
Okay.
Wanted to say that the United Workers Union supports the network.
Okay. So let's move on to, I guess, Ms. Maridel Martinez-Andanar of SBS is here to share a solidarity message to us. Ms. Maridel?
Hi, kamusta? Just wanted to say congratulations to the students for a lot of the great work you've done in the past year. And I see Malu is somewhere, is with us today, Malu Logan. I've worked with her in SBS. I've been in SBS for the past 20 years. And through those years, I've seen how the students have grown, and I've seen how the organization or the group has grown and the voices have grown stronger and louder. I just want to say congratulations and continue on with the work that you're doing, and that we're always here to support you. And I think the most important thing is to remember that we're always here for each other, like as Filipinos, and as what we have seen in the past year during the pandemic. The community spirit is very important in supporting each other. And most important of all is that as long as we stay informed and we inform each other of the important things that have been going on, our voices or the voices of the students will go stronger. And hopefully, I wish you all luck in the next year as you start on the new campaign. Salamat.
Thank you po. We were supposed to have Sam Smar of Global Vision Migration for our next speaker, but due to family emergency, he wasn't able to join us today. Sam is a migration agent who has been helping SNIS and our international students on their visa issues. So we would like to acknowledge his ongoing support to the network and its advocacy.
Thank you, Annie. So now let's move on to Mr. Arlan Fajardo of Pinoy Ako, Pinoy Tayo radio program. He also has a video message that he sent us.
Hello mga Kapinoy. First of all, I would like to greet ng happy first anniversary ang Student Network International Support. Napakabilis ng araw, no? 1 year na nga. Kami po dito sa Pinoy Ako, Pinoy Tayo ay lubos na nakikiisa sa anumang hangarin at ginagawang programa at suporta ng SNIS sa mga mahal nating mga Kapinoy na mga estudyante dito sa Melbourne, dito sa Victoria, Australia. Muli po, sa pangalan po ni Pinuno Walter Bino Gonzalo, ang ating co-anchor, kami po dito sa PAPT ay bumabati ng happy first anniversary SNIS at kami po ay nakikisa at sumusuporta sa inyo. Mabuhay ang SNIS!
Thank you, Arlan. Now we have Marlon De Leon, the President of Filipino Community Council of Victoria, or FCCVI.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to send the solidarity message from the Filipino Community Council of Victoria. For those who have known who is the Filipino Community Council of Victoria, we are the recognized umbrella body of Filipino-Australian organizations in Victoria, with currently 25 member organizations, including the front-runner Gabriela and Migrante Melbourne, or Migrante Victoria, as one of our member associations. And somehow, with the help of Gabriela and Migrante, we know that FCCVI has been a big part of the success of SNIS, apart from me giving this solidarity message. But let me give you some of the things that we have done on the background, maybe not within SNIS, but since the beginning of the pandemic, we really work hard to support international students through emergency relief. And from last year to date, we have distributed over 14,000 bags of groceries to the members of the community, and more than half of that 14,000 bags went to the international students. And because of our continued connection and support with international students, behind the background, as you know, FCCVI is also an employer, and we help out dozens of international students to complete the work placements. And also we have employed international students from the past, and right now we have full-time and part-time international students employed by FCCVI right now. Just recently as well, we have been a provider of the International Student Welfare Network, which is under the Study Melbourne program for us to deliver targeted welfare and employment support for international students, and giving way for us to be one of the key partners of international students in supporting them to live and work and be looked after while they are studying and living in Victoria. Part of that as well, I wish to thank the Australian government for giving us a direct offer to be a provider of multicultural communications, and another direct offer to continue our emergency relief. And I believe this will most of these funds will go through international students. And to end this, actually, this is my birthday today. That's why I'm rushing. I want to go and do something else. But I really cannot resist not seeing you guys. I wish to congratulate SNIS. Once we open up after these lockdowns, I am offering the Filipino Hub for you to have a meeting space to meet with warm meal if you want to, plus coffee free, so that we can have a good home for SNIS and you can work and meet for free in a safe and neutral place where you will not be targeted or isolated. And thank you so much, everyone. Continue your great work. I can't put up dollar value in what you do. Not any grant that we receive can match the amount of generosity and goodness that is coming from SNIS. Let us all fight for international students, while we as FCCVI will work on in stopping student trafficking by educating people and also campaigning to stop those illegal, uneducated, and malicious agents who have been doing this education trafficking. So if you want us to be front, right, and center in fighting this issue, we're offering our help to you. And yes, we want Australia to be a safe and a prosperous option for international students to live and study and work, and give them an experience for them to be thankful for that they are in Australia. And that's a way of us returning as Filipino Australians the benefit that we have as Australian citizens here. So maraming salamat po, and hopefully magpatuloy yung SNIS, and sana ay we could achieve what we want. Sana mag-close yung mga matatakaw na mga educational institution na yan soon, because you don't want them. They're destroying the industry. We have a good education, but because of those selfish people, ay namamantsahan yung integrity ng ating education system. And we will help you in fighting for that. So maraming salamat po, and good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Marlon de Leon, for your support and that message, and happy birthday. Now let's, Mr. Andy Tiver is here. He's a member of Philippine Australia Solidarity Association, PASA.
He caught up and
sorry. I'm Andy Tiver, and I'm the co-chair together with Mike Kotsakis of the Philippine Australian Solidarity Association. And I live, work and play on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people. I want on behalf of PASA to congratulate SNIS on the speed and amazing way in which you organised in the face of the crisis that so many international students were left with because of the onset of COVID, and moreover, the neglect of the Australian government. The Australian government was happy to reap the financial benefits of international students, but when it came to the time of crisis, the reality that international students are seen as commodities to be valued when there is money and discarded when they're of no value became too clear. The work that you have done to defend the right of students and stand up against exploitative practices is truly commendable. PASA stands with you in solidarity as you embark on your campaign against education trafficking. And as PASA, and there are many members of our organisation online today, so thanks for participating. But as PASA, we commit ourselves to extend and re-echo your campaigns through our own activism and advocacy wherever we can. So congratulations on 1 year, and we express our solidarity for your coming campaign against education trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy, for that message. Next, we have a video message from Jocelyn Pacala of United Filipino International Students, or UFIS.
A pleasant good afternoon to all. On behalf of United Filipino International Students in Victoria, or UFIS, would like to congratulate the Support Network for International Students, or SNIS, on its first-year anniversary and launch the Anti-Education Trafficking Campaign. We, as International Students Organization, really appreciate Migrante Melbourne when they formed the network along the different groups and individuals to help and support the struggle of international students with their visa problems, issues with their agents and school provider. We are also happy in welcoming and uploaded there is a campaign of anti-education trafficking and may served. Protect the rights and welfare for the international students. Long live SNIS. Long live international solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. We also have Mr. Arlan of Tamil Refugee Council to give a solidarity message.
Thanks, Christine, and thank you to SNIS for inviting me to be part of this group, and congratulations for your 1-year anniversary. I'm part of Tamil Refugee Council. I'm also a union organizer with the Australian Workers Union, and recently been pre-selected by Victorian Socialists as their Senate candidate for Victoria. I came to this country as a refugee and have been fighting against Australia's refugee policies for years. I and Tamil Refugee Council stand in solidarity with your group and international students and their struggle for equal treatment. International students are not only being used by universities to maximize their profit, but are put in a situation where they're vulnerable to trafficking, face all sorts of issues in the community, including exploitation in workplaces. As Andy and others have said, a stronger collective of international students and solidarity from the broader community is the way forward. To me, struggle of international students is no different to the struggle of refugees. It is tied to the borders and discriminatory migration program that favors the rich over the working people. And these borders ensure we have an army of workers who are left in a desperate situation where we're willing to work for less and never have the space to protest unfair and unequal treatments. And the ruling class uses groups like refugees, migrants, and international students to promote racism and nationalism and ensure we don't unite with the workers here. Workers' movement should recognize that it is in the interest to fight for equal rights for international students. The trade union leadership should provide genuine solidarity to the international students. In the meantime, keep fighting, comrades. As member of Tamil Refugee Council, we're with you. And when this lockdown ends, we will join whatever actions you organize. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron from Tamil Refugee Council. May you please call on Lawrence Castillo of Anakbayan Melbourne and Philippine Studies Network in Australia, or PINAS, to provide the next message.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lawrence, also an international student, and I'm speaking from the land of the Bunwurrung people, to which I would like to pay my respects, especially to their elders, past, present, and emerging. In behalf of the Filipino community organizations, PINAS, Anakbayan, and I'd also like to mention Migrante and Gabriela, I'd like to express our solidarity with the support network for international students. This network has grown over the past year, remaining steadfast in the commitment to campaign against the predatory and exploitative practices of educational providers. The global pandemic crisis has brought these issues to the surface, revealing the profit-oriented character of educational providers that prey on the dreams and hopes of migrant students seeking better lives for themselves and their families. This is even more apparent in the case of Filipinos, in which social crisis perpetually pushes our people to seek fortune overseas. We thus continue to extend our support for international students who deserve our deepest solidarity in their brave struggle for social justice. We vow to further our cooperation with the network with the aim of promoting the welfare and rights of international students here in Australia. Thank you at mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you, Kuya Lau. Our next speaker is Sister Patricia Fox from Australian Catholic Religious Against Trafficking in Humans.
Thanks a lot. I'm just getting myself organized. Thank you for the invitation to ACRAF, the short form of that title. I would also like to start by saying I'm on Wurundjeri land. land that was never ceded, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'd really like to congratulate the Support Network for International Students, and especially the international students, for the courage and the commitment to join together collectively and speak out. And it's already, as we heard, had some very good results. I know most people were aware of the treatment of the international students during pandemic, where they were given no support whatsoever from the government. And ACRAF did write a letter to the government on their behalf. But this network, I think with this anti-trafficking in education, has moved it to another level also. And it's very much in line with what ACRAF does. Just to give you a little bit of a background to ACRAF, it's a Catholic religious, and it's part of an international network also called Talitha Kum, and ACRAF basically works in the Asia Pacific region in fighting against human trafficking and slavery. And when I look at some of the plans of the network, it's what ACRAF has been doing in terms of trafficking. Like, there's an accompanying program for people who have been trafficked, a support network. We do education, particularly in schools, about trafficking, and it's sexual trafficking, it's work, it's all sorts of forced marriages. There's lots of aspects to it that we've been working on and getting out modules on. We also, and a lot of the education has also been around the supply chains, because a lot of the trafficking is done, it's linked up with the exploitation of workers, particularly in other Asian countries that we've been trying to expose. A lot of our work has also been advocacy. And at present, ACRAF is a member of the Victorian Tasmanian Modern Slavery Task Force. And it's also a member of a government human trafficking and slavery roundtable, with particular emphasis, ACRAF, on the seasonal worker program advisory group. And we have just recently been successful in getting wages paid to some people from Nauru. So a lot of what we're doing very much fits in with the plans and the future of the Support Network for International Students, Ness. So our coordinator, Claire Griffin, would have loved to have been here, but she had something else on. So on behalf of ACRAF, I'd like to say congratulations on this first year's anniversary. It's been an amazing feat to work so quickly, and it does show how committed everybody is. We commend you. We encourage the network to grow and to go ahead and develop its programs. And we commit that anything that ACRAF can do to be of support to this network, we're very happy. And we also see that all the slavery is part of the neoliberal agenda, which internally we're actually studying now to make, because unless we have systems change, nothing changes. So once again, congratulations, and may the network really grow and develop. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Pat. Now we have a message from Michael. He's one of the international students. He will give us a solidarity message.
To become an international student after attending a seminar in the Middle East on how to migrate to Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. And they told us that the fastest and easiest way to get a permanent residency in Australia is to become an international student first. I've paid nearly 3,500 Australian dollar for their service, but after my visa was approved, I haven't heard anything from them. Originally, they said they would assist us until we get our permanent residency. They even mentioned that the school's owner worked in immigration before, so he could also help us later on. When my visa was approved, there was an offer from the school that they can pick us up from the airport, and they can also prepare an accommodation for us. but I didn't took that offer because I checked online and I saw that it was very expensive. They are charging for $175 to pick you up from the airport and $700 for 1 month accommodation. Some of my friends took that offer and later they found out that the owner of the accommodation they were staying received only $125 per week. So it's like making $50 a week from them. The school didn't provide any support in helping us to look for a job. As an international student, we are only allowed to work for 20 hours per week, and to be honest, the salary that I'm getting for work is obviously not enough for my daily expenses, for my rent, and to save money for my tuition fee. Some students work cash on hand just to survive, so I don't really encourage people to come here as a student if you don't have a lot of money. I was lucky enough to find a job when I first came here, but when COVID hit, I resigned from that job because it was not healthy anymore. I was so stressed and I was always sick. I remember I said during our meeting that I would not kill myself because of work. And the owner of the school surprisingly said that we all kill ourselves for work, which really shocked me because there was an admin and a compliance officer as well on that meeting. So after losing my job, I struggled to pay for my tuition fees, so I decided to request for payment intervention, but unfortunately, the school does not allow payment intervention of more than 15 days. So if you request for like 1 month intervention, they will just ignore your email. After 2 weeks of non-payment, you will receive an email from the school that you are at risk for deportation, that you have failed to meet the ESOS standard. So in short, the tone of their emails are always threatening after you have not paid the tuition fee, when in fact the tuition fee is for the next semester and they are just asking for payment in advance. It's actually 1 month advance. The school will not show you any sympathy or concern for any of its students. They only see us as they are cash cows which they can extort money every month. The worst part on top of all of this is that the school wasn't providing good quality teaching. I am paying for $2,100 per quarter and I'm not even sure if my assessor is qualified. At the start of each unit, we'll have a discussion on the first week for like 60 minutes to 90 minutes. And on the second week, the assessor will discuss the assessment itself. And the remaining contact hours, which is like 18 and a half hours, they will just open the online classroom and they will check the attendance. And after that, that's it. And recently, I found out that they were editing our assessment because I compared the assessment that I have uploaded with the one they graded, and I saw that they added some paragraph or sentences on my answers, which I found really weird because they can just send it back to me and then I can revise it. But they don't do it that way anyway. I realized that they are not really after providing good education, but they are only using the school as a front to extort money from people who are hoping to come here to get a permanent residency, and they just offer them to be a student first and later on you can get your residency process. So don't fall for these scams, guys. So be very careful. If you really want to come here and study, you should find for a decent school and you should really do your research first, and you should also talk to a migration agent first. That's it for my testimony.
Pardon me, that was a student sharing, by the way. That's not a solidarity message. I thought that's a solidarity message, but that's actually a student sharing from Michael, who's currently enrolled in an abusive education provider. So for confidentiality reasons, we didn't have a video, and his name is changed because he's still enrolled on an abusive education provider. Thanks for that, Michael. Now for the quick photo ops, we would like to prompt everyone to turn on their videos so we can capture a photo that we can, store and put on our documentation. So we currently have 43 participants at the moment in this forum.
Okay, thank you. It's done.
All good?
All good.
Okay.
Now let's go. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry, Annie.
Yeah, before we start the second half of the solidarity messages, we would also like to acknowledge the ongoing support of Migrant Workers Network. Unfortunately, they were not able to join us today, but yeah. Aditine, I think you're on mute.
Before I proceed to the next lots of solidarity message, I would like to call on any representative from PISO, or we call it Pinoy International Students Organization. Anyone? We'll just keep waiting. I don't think that there is from PISO just yet. Now we have Miss Tita Gloria Moscosa from Filipino Elderly Get Together Association to give her solidarity message to SNIS.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Gloria Moscosa, the president of the Filipino Elderly Get Together Association, and I am honored to be included in this campaign against education trafficking. I feel sad that our fellow Filipino international students and migrant workers are being exploited by immigration agent and private education providers and employers. This exploitation must be stopped and those involved punished by law. On behalf of FEGTA, I would like to congratulate SNIS for your first year anniversary, and well done to all the job and hard work that you provided to all our students. And thank you very much for letting us be a part of the great campaign that are offering encouragement to all our students and immigration, and also for those employers that are needed, are in needs. I would like to say thank you to all those involved in the support network for international students headed by the interim Ness Gavanzo and her team. Thank you, everyone, and you are doing a great job, and congratulations to all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for that message. Next, we can we please call on Wing Kwang? Wing Kwang is a freelance journalist to provide the solidarity message.
So thank you so much, and for letting me to share the solidarity message. And thank you so much, Ness, for inviting me to come to this 1 year anniversary of SNIS. SNIS, I'm currently in the Wurundjeri land giving this message, and I'm a journalist based in Melbourne. I previously work with ABC, and my work pretty much focused on migration, multicultural communities, migrant workers, and also sometimes about human trafficking as well. I myself am also a former international student, so I know that the pandemic has been created lots of barriers for international students, in particular those who continue to stay in Australia despite the border closure and everything moving online, they suffer a lot. However, very few support was given to them. So it's really great that there's organization like SNIS, which consists of migrants and international students who can share their tips and experience, and also help current international students to together to counter the struggles. And as a journalist, I also observe a few campaigns that SNIS have done, and I really think that it's a really good job, a great job. And as from a perspective as a former international students, these are really necessary, and I'm also really grateful that we have people and volunteers from the SNIS offering help to the group. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wing Kuang. May we call on Xavier of FASCO, Filipino Australian Student Council of Victoria, to give us a solidarity message.
First, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which I stand on today, the peoples of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello, everyone. I'm Xavier Tagubat, the Vice President for External Affairs of the Filipino Australian Student Council of Victoria. As a student, I would like to thank you and your advocacies for providing us this platform. Unfortunately, FASCO's President, Kimberly Clementia, can't attend today. On her behalf, I would like to congratulate SNIS for celebrating its first-year anniversary and launch on their advocacy to stop education trafficking. Kimberly said she recognizes your work for supporting international students against racism and exploitation. These challenges have been going on for a long time, but not many are courageous enough to speak up. She added, no matter what the reason is, we should encourage and teach international students to take a stand. We can no longer allow international students to be taken advantage of. Lastly, she has emphasized that we, at FASCO, condemn these actions. International students have invaluable contribution in the community, and we should celebrate it. Thank you again for inviting us. Again, congratulations.
Thank you, Xavier, from FASCO. Our next speaker is from We Justice, Senior Lawyer Cassandra Martin.
Thank you so much for having me here in solidarity. I am Cassandra Martin. I'm a senior employment lawyer from West Justice. I am zooming in today from unceded Boon Wurrung land on the Kulin Nation, and I would like to start just by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country and pay respects to elders past and present. I'm so privileged to be invited to speak here, and a huge congratulations to SNIS for your organisation. You're organising and advocating for the rights of students. West Justice is a community organisation that provides free legal help to people in the western suburbs of Melbourne. We also provide free community legal education, undertake law reform activity, and work in partnership with local communities to build legal capacity and to improve access to justice. As well as providing legal services in the western suburbs, West Justice also works with Study Melbourne, Job Watch and Springvale Monash Legal Service to provide legal services specifically to international students. The program supports international students who have legal problems or who have experienced exploitation, either at work or in their housing. The students that I have been privileged to work with have experienced wage theft, discrimination, harassment, and a huge range of other exploitative practices at work. I'm struck time and time again, and so proud and privileged to be able to work with students who show such resilience, courage, and strength. And their power is really in standing up to the powerful and exploitative employers to not only assert their rights, but to fight for better conditions for others that they work with. So I'm so proud and privileged to be here in solidarity. Congratulations on your work, and thank you so much for the work that you've done for international students.
Thank you, Ms. Cassandra Martin. Now, may we call on Mary Ann Spencer from the Social Justice and Community Ministries of Dandenong Trinity Uniting Church. to give us the solidarity message.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we're meeting, or which I'm zooming from here, and give respect to elders past and present and those yet to come. Congratulations on your first anniversary. This campaign is extremely important, and it's an honour to actually be part of this and to offer our services down at Dandenong Regional Uniting Church in whichever capacity we can do that, for this very important work that you are actually doing for vulnerable people that happen to be international students. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Marianne. Next, we have Shirley Winton from IPAN, or Independent and Peaceful Australia Network, and Spirit of Eureka.
You're muted, Shirley.
Can you hear me now? I'm unmuted. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Sorry about that. So I'm here to send solidarity greetings to SNIS from two people's organisations in Australia, the Independent and Peaceful Australia Network and Spirit of Eureka. So firstly, thank you for giving us this opportunity to express our solidarity with the international students and all migrant workers. I'd like to acknowledge first that I'm on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, never ceded. We stand in solidarity and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and always was and always will be Aboriginal land. We send our warmest solidarity greetings on this first anniversary of the formation and the very important work by the SNIS. And we congratulate you on this important work organising and campaigning for the rights and welfare of international students in Australia. So your organisation is indispensable, especially during the prolonged COVID pandemic, which has been taken advantage of to intensify the exploitation and abuse of international students and all migrant workers as cheap labour. And it's all these reasons that the work of SNIS is so important in giving international students an organised and a powerful voice and action, and opportunity for action. We want to especially stress the international students and migrant workers hold a significant place in the struggles of the Australian people for justice, for peace, for independence, and solidarity with the international working people all over the world. So we wish SNIS success in your struggle and next campaign in education trafficking. And we offer our support and solidarity in your work. So thank you and all the best.
Thank you so much, Shirley. For Rahul, or Renters and Housing Union, can we please call on Owen to provide his solidarity message?
Hey, my name's Owen. I'm with the Inner Melbourne branch of the Renters and Housing Union. I'm coming from I'm speaking on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Congratulations to SNIS on your first anniversary. In the absence of any meaningful government support for international students, the work of the community group to fill that void is an inspiring act of mutual aid and collective action that sets an amazing example to us all. The campaign against education trafficking is connected to the struggle for housing rights. Even before the pandemic, the conditions, high rents, and power imbalance faced by international students in rental properties bring into even clearer focus the exploitative nature of the tenant-landlord relationship. Rahu's organising is focused around building strength in the renting class by educating renters about their rights and supporting them to stand up for those rights, which are so often ignored by the landlords and real estate agents who, like the dodgy education providers and migration agents, are only motivated by profit. To that end, Rahu affirms our solidarity with SNIS and the wider community of international students and our commitment to collective organised action in building renters' power. Cheers.
Thank you, Owen, for that message. Now may we call on Berlin Guerrero from Bayan, Australia to give us the solidarity message.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Bayan, Australia, which is Bagong Alyansang Makabayan or New Patriotic Organization, and its member organizations, which includes Gabriela, Migrante, Pinas, Anak Bayan, PCPR, and ALPA, I greet you a very pleasant and liberating greetings for all of us here, especially with our minds and thoughts wrapped around the issue and concern of our fellow of our international students and other temporary migrants. And before that, I'd like to acknowledge that I am working and living and serving in the lands of the Wurundjeri and Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation, and I pay respects to their elders past and present. My friends, colonial economy and neoliberalism made possible the squeezing of capitalist profit from the sweat and blood of Filipino workers and peasants during the colonial and neo-colonial years in the history of the Philippines. During the years of Marcos dictatorship, the exportation of laborers primarily to the Middle East and later on of other skilled Filipinos like domestic workers and health workers became a way for the semi-colonial and semi-feudal social order to be sustained by dollar earnings through the OFW's remittances. Today, another stream of labor export comes in the face of education trafficking. Education trafficking is the exploitation of international students for the profit of immigration agents, private education providers, and employers through three main elements: deception of students of their home countries, debt bondage, and workplace exploitation. These extremely exploited members of the migrant community has been called in a documentary as milking cows. Bayan opposes any form of trafficking and exploitation of persons wherever they are. And for this reason, Bayan Australia participates in this campaign saying no to education trafficking. Congratulations, SNIS, and onward with the campaign against education trafficking.
Thank you, Pastor Berlin of Bayan, Australia. For our next speaker, she was not able to join us today due to family commitment, but we have a video message from the State Member of Parliament for Thomastown, MP Bronwyn Halfpenny.
Hi, it's Bronwyn Halfpenny here. I'm the State Member of Parliament for the electorate of Thomastown. That covers people that live in the suburbs of Laylaw, Thomastown, Wollert, Epping and Reservoir. And I just want to pass on my greetings of solidarity to Gabriela Australia, and also to give my best wishes to the first anniversary meeting on Saturday of the support network for international students. I know that international students have been particularly hard hit by this pandemic. The borders are closed, they're living in Australia and have been here for a long time, making big contributions to society, to Victoria, in jobs and voluntary work and all the other things that they're doing, as well as, of course, their studies. But, of course, the federal government has refused to provide any financial support. So I am with all of you, and if there's anything that I can do, I know the Victorian government, we have been advocating for support. There is a little bit of support that we've been able to provide, but of course it's not nearly enough. So best wishes for today's anniversary meeting, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the outcome and seeing what we can do to fight hard for the rights of international students and to campaign to make sure that they're getting treated fairly.
Thank you, MP Bronwyn Halfpenny, for that solidarity message. We would like to acknowledge Sydney Community Forum, who was not able to join us today as well, of their ongoing support for the network and our campaign and advocacies. We would also like to quickly note that the ongoing campaign is per vaccine, pro-union and anti-fascist. Editing.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. So we're heading next to the Filipino Australian Ballarat Association. We have Tita Shirley Hart. Is she here today? At the moment, if she's here, she would love to give us a solidarity message, but if not, she also has a video message to share and give her support. Organization support. I'm just checking the participants.
No, she already left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's play her video message then. Does she have any video message?
No.
Okay. We would like to thank Tita Shirley Hart for the support and the Filipino Australian Ballarat Association for the support for SNIS.
Yep, we would also like to acknowledge the support of MP Katie Hall, the State Member of Parliament for Footscray. She extends her apologies for not being able to attend due to a prior commitment.
And we would also like to acknowledge Entry Pinoy. Although they're not here today, they would like to give their support to the SNIS, and thank you for that.
I think that's those are all for our solidarity messages. Do we have anyone else who wants to provide their message? Feel free to do so. Okay, I think that's it. Again, we would like to extend our appreciation to every organization and individual who have shown their ongoing warm and uplifting support for the network and the campaign launch against education trafficking. Thank you to ALPA and Gabriela Australia East for the cultural performances, to our guest speaker, Senior Lawyer Sanmati Verma, Anisha Senaratni, Multicultural Center for Women's Health, United Workers Union, Maridel of SBS, Smar of Global Vision Migration, Pinoy Ako, Pinoy Tayo Radio Program, FCCVI, Philippine Australia Solidarity Association, United Filipino International Students, Pinoy International Students Organization, Migrant Workers Center, Arlan of Tamil Refugee Council, Anak Bayan Melbourne and Pinas, Sister Pat from Accra.
And we would also like to extend our thank you to the international students who share their stories and who support our current campaign. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Michael, for sharing your story. Also, thank you to FEGTA, Filipino Elderly Get Together Association, Winko Wang, a freelance journalist, the FASCO, Filipino Australian Student Council of Victoria, the West Justice, the Social Justice and Community Ministries of Dandenong Trinity Uniting Church. Thank you, Renters and Housing Union and Bayan Australia, and Independent Peaceful Australia Network, or IPAN, and Sydney Community Forum, and SAFI, and Filipino Australian Ballarat Association, and Entrepinaje. And we would also like to thank MP Bronwyn Halfpenny, State Member of Parliament for Thomastown. She's always been there, in every campaign we have, including, the ones at Gabriela, and Miss Katie Hall, MP Katie Hall, the State Member of Parliament for Footscray. Both of them has been very, very supportive. Thank you for always supporting our campaign. And for those who would like to know more about the campaign, we have meetings every fourth week of the month, and we send emails. Ati Ness would send emails, so feel free to type your email address and send it here on the chat box, so you can receive notifications and information and the schedules of meetings if you want to join.
Yep. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And if you have any question, as Aditin said, just feel free to let us know.
Is there anyone who wants to give a message or would like to say anything?
I just want to thank everyone for all the support that you have provided to the network, and we're hoping that every one of us will pitch forward in this campaign of anti-education. We know we are hoping that more students will come out and more of us will support them, so that we could hold the people accountable, especially the providers, and also demand accountability from the government in terms of how they are doing the monitoring and evaluation of these schools, also with the employers who are also committing wage theft to students. Yeah. Thank you everyone.